Nice to introduce us. We are the production company and the facilitators for the McSAM judging and the awards program. We do 17 awards competitions around the nation, so we do this quite a lot. It's our 100% job from top to bottom. We see a lot of product and a lot of fantastic work around the country, and this market is absolutely one of the leaders, so we're thrilled to be here with you all. Today's goal is to go through and talk about how we can help you to stand out in front of the judges. We're in a very competitive market, as we all know right now, with the level of sophistication of our product and our work. And so what we're trying to do is help you to be able to stand out to those judges, because basically all the work's fantastic. It's how do I shine a little bit brighter in order to score those points, in order to ascend to the top of their ballot and to find that way to being the winner. So we're going to go through today. We've printed out the actual presentation that I'm going to be doing, so that you have that as a reference. It'll also be downloadable from the website for some reason if you lose it. And we're going to go through and talk about just ways to get your mind and heart and body prepared to put your entries together, because that's basically kind of it. The one thing I do want to demystify is that the deep breath and the clear thinking to go ahead and go at this. I promise it's achievable. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. So we'll talk about a few of those tips and tricks. First thing you want to do is know your deadlines. And the deadline for McSAM this year is February the 11th at midnight. And the reason I say midnight is because we live in a digital age. And it never fails that at 11:59, I'm going to get 50 entries that come through the door, and they turn around and get turned back in. So that is not in any way, shape, or form my suggestion on how to do this. Start earlier. Don't wait till the last minute. Make a checklist. Sit down, make that list of your categories that you're going to be submitting for, and look at the materials that you're going to need to be gathering, so that you're not doing that on the 10th of February. Turning your homework in late is never a good plan. Just a reminder, there is an entry fee structure here. At categories for the marketing and the professional achievements, $125. For People's Choice Awards, Builder and Community of the Year is a $500 entry fee. It's a great category. The reason that it's a little bit more is because it comes with the survey, and so just to know that. We do suggest that if you're going for People's Choice, Builder, or Community of the Year, to do that early in order to then start gathering your materials, because you do need to supply lists and send out some pre-work ahead of time. And then your $1 Million Sales Award winners are $75 per entry. That's a great non-judged recognition for your sales team. We suggest everyone do it. It's a great way to highlight and honor those folks in your company who've been on the front lines. We'll go through the process of submitting the entry as well, but all entries short of your brochures and your direct mail are submitted digitally. So if you have a brochure, you are going to turn in an actual physical piece here for the judges to see and touch here to the DBA by the 11th of February, but everything else is a digital material. This is the McSAM entry application form. Now, before we get to this section, here's what I always like to tell people. Is in a progression of order, realistically what you're going to want to do is go onto the website or use your call for entries that you have here, and you're going to want to go through every single category and decide who, what, where am I submitting for this awards competition this year. You know, sit down, have a strategy meeting and go, okay, what did we do, or who do we know that had an incredible year? And decide what those entries are. Once you have that beautiful list of, okay, this is where I'm headed, that's the first place you want to do to go into the entry form and submit those entries. And the reason why is that's going to generate your entry number, and now you're on the path towards entry submittal. But generating those numbers and paying that entry, getting that entry fee invoice already underway, it's kind of like the starting point. It's an easy entry application. Basically, all it asks for is it asks you to commit to your category number, your project name and location, then put your information in, and then you hit submit, and it's going to generate your confirmation email. That's basically going to give you your entry number. The entry number is the category number and the 4-digit serial number that's going to be assigned through the entry system. It comes immediately after you hit that submit button. This is a blind judging. The judges don't know you as your company name, as your project name, or as that person. You are a 4-digit number because they are from outside of the area. And in order for it to be blind, in order for it to be completely secure, they only reference you as those entry numbers. So that's why those entry numbers are very, very important. So once you get your entry confirmation email, then you can start gathering your materials, renumbering, making sure that your file sizes are sized correctly, and so forth. The biggest mistake that people are running into right now is not taking this as seriously as they should. They're going to do it as a secondary thing after after they're doing their normal job. But what you have to look for is this is actually in complement to your marketing strategy, okay? Because that's what an awards program is. Think of the Oscars. The studios submit their movies and their people for consideration, not only to have that beautiful night on the red carpet, but it's also a marketing element, okay, for you to go see the movies. We want to use that same intention to get consumers to go visit our communities or visit us in order to sell a new home. So that's the way we like to say is the more seriously you take it, the better off you're going to be. So if you're looking at this as though you're really, the intention is to win, you'll do better. Submitting your materials, when people put together the materials, the other biggest mistake they'll fall into is that they won't read the instructions or follow the rules. And so what will end up happening is you'll end up getting an email or a notification back from us that says, hi, you didn't number your entry materials, you didn't put your materials together, you sent us all PDFs instead of JPEGs, now you have to redo it. There is nothing worse than having to redo an entire project when you thought you were done. So while I say that, that's why we want to show you realistically the best way to put your materials together. Imagine that you are putting together a folder on your desk for each one of those materials, okay? It's just on your desktop because it's all digital now these days. You should have a folder for each entry after you get your entry materials back with that entry number. And into that folder, you're going to put each one of the materials that is required for that category. For instance, for a professional achievement, it's that professional achievement form, and it's their image. I promise you, if you're going to be submitting someone a personal for a salesperson, marketing director, sales manager, any of those things, please, 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 the first thing you want to do, start off, go get them a beautiful picture, right size, so when it comes up on that screen, they look lovely. There is nothing worse than when someone's going to win Salesperson of the Year and they've picked up their LinkedIn picture and it's this big and it's grainy and it looks terrible, and we have to come back to you and say, please send us a nicer picture. Otherwise, I have to Facebook stalk them and see if I can find something. So if you're going to be submitting someone, first thing I would say to them is, hey, do you have a picture, or is there a picture that you have corporate that you can pull? If not, go get one taken. It is the easiest thing possible. Then when you're going to go into that entry materials, it's always great when you're going to do an individual achievement or a salesperson category, sit down and interview them. Ask them some questions. What were the things that you accomplished this year? What were your goals? What did you do? What are the obstacles that you overcame this year that stood apart from just your normal daily job? One of the things that we talk about with the judges is doing one's job earns you a paycheck, okay? That's what you earn for doing your job. It's what you do above and beyond, past what you're supposed to do, that earns you an award, okay? So that's the intention, that they look at those entries to decide and decipher who is worthy of recognition. So if you sit down with that person and say, hey, give me 5 minutes, tell me what your biggest accomplishment was, what your biggest obstacle was, and what you were most proud of, you'll glean some of that beautiful insight that you can put into that award. Because really what you're trying to do in that entry application is it's their introductory letter to the judges for them to get to know them before they're going to come in and have that nice 10-minute interview with the judges. And so it all ties that beautifully together. So consider that, especially for superintendents and project managers and so forth. You'll be surprised at the little bit of gold that you can mine to put into that entry statement. When you're putting together those marketing categories, when you're talking about doing those entries, what you're going to want to do there is also, again, look for how you can make sure that those entries shine the best. And we'll go through those later. The big thing to understand is in each category what is required. It's when you get to the marketing categories, it's going to be that team project information form and the images. When you get to interior merchandising and architecture, it's going to be the team information form, the floor plan, and those images. And so realistically, knowing what you're going for is going to make this a lot easier. When we say up to 8 images, that doesn't mean you have to submit 8 images. It means you have the ability to submit up to 8. So if you feel like you have 6 really strong images, but you can't get to 8, that's okay. Use the strongest images that you have. Numbering is extraordinarily important, so make sure you do that. But we suggest once you get all of those folders filled up with all of the materials, that you basically send us a link to download. And that'll be in that confirmation email. Don't share the entire folder. Some people have done that where they've shared the folder and it's their original. And what'll happen is we'll remove it because we can't keep, if you can imagine all the folders. It's just too much, there's too much data. So just share the link so we can download it. That's our tip for that. And you can use any file sharing method that you like. Some people like Dropbox, some people like Hightail, some people like Google Docs. Whatever it is, whatever you choose, fine with us. So tips and trips. Here's the thing that I always like to say, is when you're putting together that entry package, if you are not so completely secure and proud of that package for every single one of those entries that you would want to go show it to your boss and go, this is what we did for this entry. That's the level that you're trying to go to those judges, okay? The judges are peers just like you, and what you're trying to do is showcase to them what you did. So having that solid presentation really, really helps to be effective. Plan ahead. 3 to 4 weeks is not too early. I know it seems like, okay, we have the holidays in between here. Believe me, those calendar pages are going to start wishing by. So if you have a little bit of time between now and the time when you go on holiday break, if you are going on holiday break, to kind of start to amass your strategy, that's a beautiful time to do so, because all of a sudden January is going to come and it's going to be February 11th before you know it. Organize that work. Again, a checklist with what you have to have for each one of those entries is a beautiful way to go to kind of go about organizing your mind in the way you're going to attack this. Photography. Photography can hurt you and help you. It doesn't win awards, but it certainly can deter it from you rising to the level. If they have to look past too hard to find the beauty of that image or that product, that really does hurt you. Have that conversation with your photographer about the rooms you want photographed, the elements that strike out and stand out, and make sure that if you're going to be submitting for architecture, that you get that beautiful front exterior. We have had in the past where folks have submitted for architecture and we have no front exterior and they submit just a rendering. And for some reason, the judges always go, why didn't we see the front of that house? That seems to be the general purpose that you have to have on a website and any marketing material anyway, so don't forget that. So this is my new favorite photo. Just came from the Nationals judging, 1,300 entries, and this came up on the screen. Does anybody see what's wrong in that picture? Towels. Those towels make me just want to cry. That came up, and literally it was like, really? And it's shooting yourself in the foot where you're just looking and going, that's a great bathroom. There's nothing wrong with it. That's great. But it's literally like, just don't shoot yourself in the foot. Look at those photos. Talk about it. It's just, because they could have left that picture out and it would have been fine. But it completely derailed their category. Because then what happens is the judges, all they remember is the towels in that photo. And it happens. We always like to say, have someone, put all your entries together, sit down and have someone come into your office and go through the entries with you and have them pinpoint, because basically after you look at something so many times you can't see any errors anymore because you're so close to it. If you bring somebody else in and look at those entries with you, that they can help you go, oh, did you realize that this happened or you missed that? It's a great place to do it. Marketing statements seem to be the #1 critical thing that everybody starts to get really concerned about. And here's what I'll tell you. Concise, just to the point statements are the best way of going about it. And here's your biggest tip. Write to the images, okay? Lay those images out as though you're walking through the home or the entry in a path, and talk about the strengths, talk about the opportunities, and talk about the objectives. If you look at it that way and you know that you're just talking to someone in your shoes, put yourself across the table that you're the judge sitting on the other side, give them what they need to know. Flowery, verbose, statements that you would write for consumers, what happens is they literally start to tune them out. They're like, okay, this is from the brochure. It's not giving me any detail of anything what they were trying to do or the strategy. So if you can write to as though you were trying to present it to somebody across the table, it stands out. The voice changes, and the marketing statements are read to the judges. So if you can imagine, okay, you're sitting there looking at these images and somebody's reading this to you, give them the information that is going to be meaningful. Bullet points are a huge hit. If you can tell them, it was a target market of an active adult audience. We were trying to go towards price point. It needed to be lifestyle driven, and we needed to showcase the marketing and the branding at the highest level. That's a perfectly written statement right there. Simple, concise, and to the point.
Do you have any examples of marketing statements?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go over them as we go through, but I also have them in the package. And then here's the biggest key. Once you get your list together and you say, okay, I'm going to be submitting for the following categories, email us and say, Lisa, I am submitting for best special promotion, best logo, best sales office, and interior merchandising. Send me samples. We are happy to send you samples. And sometimes what that'll do is that will inspire thought, okay? To see somebody else and see how they approached it. And we'll send you samples of bullet points. We'll send you some with objectives and constraints. And that way, it kind of gets you over that hump of getting started. So yes, absolutely happy to share in any way. There'll be entries from another market, obviously, but it'll get you kind of started on the right track. Again, write those statements to the photos. Highlight the things that they should be aware of or the things that they cannot see. I had 6 weeks to install this sales office with reused furniture from another job, and I had a budget of $11. Yeah, that's the stuff we need to know. Absolutely. Give them the dirty details of what you're trying to do. Those elements are not shared with the public, by the way. Nothing in your marketing statement, those are trade secrets. They stay with, what happens in the judging stays in the judging. Basically, all you're trying to do is explain what you did and how you did it in the best way. Oh, boilerplate statements. If you're submitting in 20 categories for the same project and you submit the same exact narrative for every single one of your entries, what happens is, by about the third category, and I've read that statement 3 times, they just say, stop reading. I don't want to hear it. There's nothing here to be gleaned. And then by the time you get to the 18th entry and I go, it's the same statement, they start to discount you. So no matter if it's 3 sentences, write to the category. Best logo, write about the best logo. Best sales office, write about that best sales office. Even if it's just something very simple and concise, but don't give us a boilerplate. It's a big don't. If you're going for branding or digital media, talk about your intention. Talk about who that market is. How did you reach them? What was your strategy? And how well did you connect? Talk about sales that can be related to that entry. Talk about how you implemented everything. And then also give us the stats. Click-through rates. Any rates that you can give us that talk about how it was accomplished is great. We've had entries where it literally has a total demographic of click-through rates, pay-per-clicks, everything. And really, when you're looking at this as a judge and everything, it all looks beautiful, really what you have to get down to is sales success and whether or not it worked. For interiors and product, what we like to say is imagine that you're walking that judge through the home with you, as though you were there together. Walk through the front door and organize your images as though you're walking through the house from the front door to the master bedroom. I always like to say, in the master bedroom. Point out those design details that stand apart. That niche that's underneath the stair, that wine room. Something that stands out, that oversized pantry for the Costco closet. Whatever it was, it stood out to that buyer profile that was a sales success for that plan. In interior merchandising, talk about those elements that were the memory points that you put into that project that stood out so that someone would remember that home. They really love to hear, the judges love to hear how well that plan has been received. This is the best-selling plan out of our group. This sold, represents 20% of all the homes sold within the project. It's been a hit. In those architectural design and interiors and sales office, you're asked to submit a floor plan. Those floor plans should be nice, clean floor plans. They do not need to have, they shouldn't be blueprints, they shouldn't be working drawings. Those make us crazy. If you don't have a clean plan, use the one from your brochure or from your website. Okay, download it. But the biggest challenge you need to do is you need to debadge everything, because it's a blind judging. So it should not say your builder name. I should not see any architects' names, interior merchandisers' names, or anything else. Because what ends up happening is we go through and we'll scrub them. We will clip it all out. But sometimes they'll get through. And what happens is the judges that come to sit down and judge in every market are an entrant for another market. And they know the rules. And so when they see someone not following the rules, they go, why does that? Why do I see the interior merchandiser's name on this floor plan? And they immediately, there's like this small bit of offense because they feel as though somebody's tried to bend the rules. So make sure you debadge everything. And if you have a two-story plan, make sure you put them side by side on the same page. What we're trying to do, if you can imagine, is make this very easy for the judge to find the information as easily as possible. How the floor plans are given to the judges is each judge is asked to bring their own laptop. Okay, we're all basically a paperless judging. So each judge is asked to bring their laptop, and all the floor plans are given to them on a thumb drive. So as we're going through and we're looking at the materials on screen, they are able to then go and find the floor plans on their own laptop and view them at their own pace. So they can be looking down at the floor plan, looking at the images and listening to the marketing statement. But then when we go into the discussion phase, they can go back and look at them more deeply. So the easier that they can find those floor plans on a nice clean PDF on a single page or a 2-page scrollable PDF makes it the best for them. So just, again, understanding how it's viewed and how they have to get there helps you to be able to create it in the right way so that they can find the information easy.
It's just the floor plan itself that you need, not the elevations and the floor plan.
Correct. That's exactly right. So this is a nice clean sample floor plan, and I've given you one in the package as well. It's literally first floor, second floor next to each other. If it's too large a home, if it's 2 pages where they can just scroll between the 2 pages in a PDF, makes it very easy for them to find it. If you already have it and it's sitting on a sample lot, or if you've got the optional items, all those elements that you would have in a brochure or online, those are completely fine. Realistically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to be able to look up the images, look down the floor plan, and be able to relate how the space works together. Okay?
You said like Plan 5, but if we have like a Brendan plan?
Yes, absolutely. The name of the plan is absolutely okay to have on there because what that'll help us do is make sure that we're on the right entry on the right plan. So that's completely, especially if you have multiple plans within the categories, where like let's say you're going to have 2 or 3 plans in the same category, the same square footage. That's fine. That actually is, it's kind of a guiding light for us to make sure that we have everything's relating right to the right entry. This is another nice sample of a floor plan. Giving them the total square footage, anything like that detail, that's completely okay. Lot sizes, sample lots, any rooms. If you do want to have it with the furnishings showcase because the interior merchandisers provide it to you that way, that's completely fine. So this is what our judging system looks like when a judge is sitting down to look at the entry. What we call this is our overview photo, okay? So the reason I give this to you in this package is so that you can kind of get an idea. When the judges look at the entry, this is the first thing that they see. They see the entry in these thumbnails, and this is the look. The top line is images 1, 2, 3, and 4. Bottom lines 5, 6, 7, and 8. The reason I give it to you, that's to help you get the sequencing of how your images look on screen, because we go through them in that sequential order, okay? So if you can imagine, this is what it's going to look like up on the screen for them. Once we go through it the first time, we click on those thumbnails and they blow up to full screen. But this is how they can see everything holding together. So for architecture and interior merchandising, they're looking to see, how does it look? How does it relate? Does that interior relate to the exterior? For the interior merchandising, they want to see, okay, do those colors all fall together? Does this look like a cohesive submittal? All right? So, and again, look at it as though you're walking the person through the home. So that's the sequential order for that one. So I'm going to jump into some of the samples that we have from recently from the nationals. We just got done doing their judging. And what I found was I marked off submittals that I thought had a really nice statement, a really nice submittal. And the reason I'm showing you this one is this is a submittal for a logo and graphic continuity. What they tried to do here is they showed how the logo related to all of the different elements and the usages that they used, going from their logo to their brochure to their digital media and so forth. And what I loved about this submittal is they showed how it worked in print and in digital. And then they talked about it. They talked about what their objectives were, and they talked about how they tried to come out of the box and why it relates back to the name of the project. So a great sample of writing up something that is a little bit more fun. Here's the other hot tip. Again, as I mentioned earlier, those marketing statements are read to the judges. Okay, so the less dry and more fun that you can put into that statement, and I'll give you an instance. Irvine is jazzing it up with this new collection of award-winning master plan. At this new collection of homes, prospective buyers can find 3- and 4-bedroom, 2- and 3-story homes boasting clean line, modern design. This identity needed to speak to fun, social, and modern audience. Okay, well, that's pretty standard. They could have gone and they could have added some even more fun, jazzy things. Because what happens is it stands out in that person's auditory. You're like, wait, something exciting is happening. So have some fun with that. Make it conversational, make it fun, give it some personality. Because what it does is it wakes that judge up and goes, oh, there's something special happening. Digital marketing programs. So here's the key to this submittal that I thought was fantastic. They literally put on their imagery their statistics. They had 173 qualified leads, 22,300 total reach on their Facebook, and 10,000 page landing. It was right there in front of the judge the entire time. They could see it the entire time. It looked fantastic, but the results were right there. And they also added it in the bottom image as well. You can't read it as well, but you can see on your handouts. They basically gave them how well it did and the successes as in the submittal. So I just thought this was a great way of showcasing it and standing out, rather than just being the typical entry submittal. Again, for digital marketing, what they really want to hear: what was your strategy? How did you accomplish it? What was your budget? And were there any direct sales related back to that marketing campaign? It doesn't have to have a sale, but if it brought in human beings and bodies and traffic, that's great. That's realistically what it's intended to do. Social media, digital marketing, websites, again, think about how you're going to put that entry together, talk about what you're trying to do, what the intention was, and that really helps the judge to be able to understand what the project was and what you're trying to accomplish. So this is a overall ad campaign submittal. And what they did here is they put it together as a package. On the top, you're going to see a lot of their digital media. And on the bottom, you're going to see some of their other strategies. But again, what they did here and how they stood out, they talked about their challenge and all about what they were trying to achieve. And then they talked about their solution, how they went about it. And then in the results, they gave us those dirty details. And this stood out because then the judge could say, oh, okay, so this is what they were trying to do, this is what they did, and this is exactly what the result was. That's how in some instances, when you're talking about maybe 3 or 4 entries that are kind of at the top of someone's ballot, that's when the judge goes, okay, well, they gave us their results. We didn't know what the results were on, entry number 4722, but 4827, they told us. They gave us all the dirty details, so they were forthcoming with the result. So that helps. And it doesn't always, like I said, it doesn't always necessarily have to be attributed to a sale, but it does need to say it did accomplish something. This is a great sales center submittal. I love the way that it was put together. They had great imagery. They told their story. But here's the reason I use it as a don't. In the entry submittal, it says specifically, don't talk about your name of your project. Don't talk about the name of the builder. And it talks about just non-usage. Talk in the third person. The builder and the design team work together to collaborate to put this together. As you can see, I've X'd out all the places where they use their name. What happens is, as I'm reading through it, I skip over those. But again, it's one of those things where it just stands out as you didn't read the rules, you didn't follow it, you didn't take it seriously. So again, very simple, stub your toe mistake, but again, just remember that. And you would want, as you can imagine, as an entrant, you would want everyone to follow the rules the same way so that we're all on the same level playing field. So this is a really great entry submittal where I talk about where you have up to 8 images, but you don't use all 8 because 4 images will tell the story. This submittal is a model home in Denver, and the home is only 1,000 square feet. It's for a single female, and they were supposed to do this to a builder package. They had a very low budget, but they need to tell the story. The price point of these homes was like $225,000, and they're out by the DIA airport. So it was a first-time home buyer, young professional women, and they told the story about how they got it done. They got it done in 4 images with a tight marketing statement and their constraints, and it stood out. This entry it took its local awards program, it went on to win the national awards program, and so it stood out. So it's a nice, solid, clean entry. It wasn't showy, it just was very, very well done. For architecture, what I always like to say to people is, again, walk them through the home, but this is a great submittal because here's what it is. It's talking about an active adult buyer profile, a small house. They captioned the images below, and that is allowed. You can't really read it here, but they'll talk about cottage-style elevation, architectural gourmet stylings, and so forth. And the reason I want to show you this is captioning is okay. If you want to add that as like a little silent salesperson to the judge to point out what they were trying to achieve, that works out fine. The other reason I showed this is to give you the idea of a bullet point marketing statement. They were very concise. They talked about what they were trying to achieve and who their target buyer was. As you can see, it gives you the project location, the target market, the sales price, and the square footage. That's what I call the dirty details that are given to the judge. So basically, that's the very top of that project information form. But then in that narrative, in that little box, you have 200 words to tell your story. Think about how you want to present this to the judge and how it's going to stand out. And again, this is another great floor plan. Again, if you have somebody in graphics who can put together something with the lot, the furnishings, and so forth, but again, not required. It's just they happen to have that ability.
It's 200 words, not 200 characters. Correct?
200 words. And here's my biggest tip. We don't count. We don't count those words, okay? Obviously, if it's more than 200 words, you can visibly see it. We don't count the words, but make those words count, okay? Read it to someone else. Have them listen to it. Was I too flowery and verbose? Did I give you all of the highlights of this community? Talk to that salesperson. How do they demonstrate that plan? What do they talk about? What are the key points that seem to stand out to a buyer? And realistically, if it's something that's going to stand out to a buyer, it's going to be something that stands out to the judge. For Community of the Year, when you're amassing, if you're going for Community of the Year, what you're going to want to do, bless you, is make that case, okay? There are qualifying categories that you have to submit in, and there's a reason why. For Community of the Year, this is a sales and marketing and design awards program. So what we're trying to do is talk about that branding, the target profile, that brochure. How did they find you, the website? How did they find that community? How did they get there? What did they encounter in the sales and welcome center? Even down to who they met in that salesperson. You know, a salesperson can actually also be a qualifier. But the other thing is the architecture. So realistically, it's just as though you were a buyer. What was the branding? How did you get there? What did you experience? And what did you buy? And then talk about that lifestyle. What is the lifestyle in that community? How is it addressed? Talk about that lifestyle director or the program and so forth. Make the case as just as though you are making the case to the consumer of why you need to live there. Why is this the next great place? What did you do that's going to stand out and make that convincing message of why I want to be there? That's the exact same intent as you're trying to approach that judge. Okay? This is why it's so incredible. And also, why it hit its market. So, kind of wrapping it up and coming back to it before we get to some questions, let me give you some, this is realistically, this page here is how I would literally pin to my wall. follow those instructions, read them, know what they are, label those materials, because as you can imagine, the reason I talk about that is, as you're putting together maybe 10, 20, 30 entries in some instances, on our end of it, when we receive it all from you, we'll have 400, 500 entries. They're grains of sand, okay? They're digital grains of sand. So if something's not labeled correctly, it's very hard to go find where that bathroom fits with what plan if it has the wrong number on it. So imagine that's realistically what you're trying to do. Try to make sure that everything hangs together. Remember, put yourself in those judges' shoes. Imagine that you're sitting on the other side of that table and somebody's handing this to you. Walk them through. Make it easy. Give them that floor plan easy so they can find it, and keep those things concise and easily digestible, and make it fun. Stand out. Have some, again, give it some voice. Tell the story. It's a competitive market. How are you standing out in a buyer's mind? Okay? Bless you. If you're walking 10, 15 model homes, how are they going to remember that model home? Formatting. Don't overthink. Like we said, the samples in the handout or any samples that we can provide to you, look at those as kind of a guide to run on. Think about it as though it's a marketing presentation, as if you were going to present this to someone else as though you were trying to earn someone's business. If you look at it that way, that's actually kind of the intention, is you're trying to get that judge to believe in you and vote for you. So if you put forth that type of attitude, it'll shine back on you. And then for all that is holy in this world, please proofread. It never fails that we get something and it's like, we'll get Plan 5's marketing statement with Plan 4. And then we're trying to figure out where did they get mixed up. So if you proofread every single thing and double check your work, that really helps. Now, once your materials come to us, we go through and make sure that everything is there. For instance, if you have a missing image, we don't have a marketing statement, there's no image for a salesperson, we'll call. Hi, we do not have Sally's photo for entry number 4723. Did you forget to send it? Or we don't have a front exterior for your best single family detached 2,500 to 3,500 square foot home. Can you please submit that? Our intention is to make sure that you have the best opportunity to shine in front of those judges, but at the same time, we'll ask once, we can't keep following up. So it goes from us reminding to then personal responsibility. I always like to say, getting noticed is like an uphill battle, but the more effort and care you put into it, the better chances that you will have that success. But it's all about the intention and how much effort you put into it. But don't overthink it. Realistically, it's just take a deep breath and walk through the door. It's going to be okay, I promise. Any questions?
I had a couple of notes. Let me
Oh.
just a couple of notes here that I took as we were going. At the top, Lisa was talking about going through the categories and making your lists and so forth. In our last two judgings, Nationals and then Denver before that, we had entrants that entered all their stuff for Community of the Year,
Yep.
and then didn't enter Community of the Year.
They had every
And the
entry
and the
to
judge-
be qualified.
And in both instances, the judges said, but we want so-and-so. Can we just throw them in? No, that's not
That's
fair.
not fair.
So here's somebody that could have won Community of the Year and they didn't do it because they just forgot to enter that thing. So it's again, if you're looking and adding up and saying, okay, well, we're entering this. Hey, wait a minute, those are a lot of the qualifying things. We
We should just go for it.
Right.
Just go for it.
Lisa's thrown out JPEGs, PDFs, and all that kind of stuff. Just again to remember, anything that the judges are going to show in that blue background thing,
On screen.
all images stuff, anything that they're going to see image-wise has to be JPEGs. Floor plans can be PDFs, and of course team forms and those things can be either PDF or Words or documents, just as a reminder there. Don't forget to let people know on any of the people categories that they've been entered.
Great.
Because a lot of times, and share the entry with them, because the judges will read it and they'll say, so Bob, we heard you did this. I did. So that's always a good thing to let them know. Always remember that the judges are industry professionals just like you, and they've all entered. It's a lot, most have finaled and a lot have won. So
They've been in your shoes.
They've been in your shoes.
And they approach that, we always ask them to approach it with a clean, pure heart, and remember that they've been in their shoes. So they do look at it and they try very hard
That's
to look for
true.
the best in
Yeah.
every entry.
Right.
They try to understand what the problem was if it's missing something.
Correct.
They really do go out of their way.
Yeah,
Trying to give you every benefit of the doubt. I
and
mean,
there is no such thing as a disqualified entry. As a matter of fact, we actually go over and above trying to save entries
I mean,
sometimes.
if there's issues or something that, you know, and again, Lisa said with the grains of sand, and we find something as we're in the judging, and on the team forum, there's a place for the email,
Website.
or the website. I mean, we'll be on the website trying to find that thing to make that entry, again, to make it as level playing ground as possible. When she was talking about imagery for architecture and interiors, especially interiors, and somebody might think, especially an interior designer might think, wow, that fruit bowl on that table was really important. It's really no super zoom pictures.
Yes.
You really want overall shots of the spaces, because sometimes you get those artsy, really tight things, and the judges can't see what the whole picture looks like. Marketing statements, again, and that seems to be the bane of existence for people, and the thing to get over. Don't talk about things you don't have images to show, because if that great kids room or that spa-like master bath or that rooftop deck, I didn't get a picture of it, the judges aren't going to want to hear about it.
Then there's a frustration factor.
Right. Why are you talking about it if it wasn't important enough to photograph?
That goes back to that writing to the images. That kind of helps you avoid that.
So that was the next note that I made was, we've had, in doing these how-tos, and we have people take this piece of advice, write image 1 or picture 1 or whatever it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can just do that list and then look at the images and then type it in there. And you can leave image 1 so that I know, because
When I read it, if I say image 1, he'll literally follow me.
After we give the overall of the marketing statement to the judges, then we go back through and read the statement. These all get blown up to about the size of the screen here. So now the judges aren't looking at all 8, they're looking one at a time. So if you say image 1, the front of this exterior, and then you said image 2, I'll click there. Rather than kind of having to guess, and as I click through, and then now you're talking about the master bedroom, but I'm on the picture of the living room. So that
It helps us to guide and narrate. So it's almost like you're curating your entry for us.
We have one entrant, and I just have 2 more things. One entrant, and she was talking about sharing results, proofreading, all those things. We have one entrant that creates a war room, and they, after everything's put together, right before submittal, they do a lunch. They have the team come in, and they do a mock judging, and they go through the categories, and they do it as it almost becomes a team building thing for the company. It shows what they've done that year, because you're usually entering whatever your better stuff is. And it really is a whole thing of, wow, we have some pretty cool stuff. And then also, it helps them to go through and say, yeah, in that house, you're not showing that one thing. Do you remember that? And can really get it to tie it all together. So that is a kind of a dual thing that helps.
It
the
also
entry, but
creates
helps
some,
the company.
it creates some buzz, because then when the finalists come out, they're really excited about it. So then you have some buy-in from everybody, and so they're really excited.
And my last thing, and you mentioned it in a couple of ways, results, results, results. It's kind of like our mantra to location, location, location. Social media, it's not how many followers you have. There's click-through rates and all those things that make the reason for social media. And then sales figures, all those things that are the behind the scenes that the reason you're doing whatever it is the categories are. But sharing those, like Lisa said, versus somebody that doesn't, makes that entry feel like you're giving a little bit more.
But in that same thing, thank you so much. Those are great calls. The other thing on social media, though, we just had, it's the Nationals, one entrant, they decided to submit it, they submitted their homepage of their Facebook page, their homepage of their Pinterest, and their homepage of their Instagram, and then all the other photos were their, the dynamics of their, how it's performing from their admin pages, and it was just all charts and graphs, but it meant nothing to the judges, because it was just peaks and valleys. So realistically, show them the elements that had high points in engagement on those pages, and then talk about them. Don't give us screenshots of your back end. That did not, I think they thought it was going to resonate, but we found out it did not. Questions?
Team project form?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
What does it look like? Let me show you a team project form. Matter of fact, I'll pop one up here on my screen for McSAM. So a team project form is very simple and easy. It's basically, if you can imagine, the top of the form is just what we were talking about for, it has the information, sorry, forgive me. On the top of the form, it gives you the people who should be credited for that entry, okay? So basically, it's going to ask you for the community name, the location, and the plan name. That's basically so we have the credit, okay, for how it's going to be known as. It's the title for the entry. Then it goes through and asks for builder, contact, the marketing director, and the contact, and then that associate. Okay, so for instance, if it's a brochure ad category, it's going to be your ad agency. Interior merchandising, it's going to be an interior merchandiser who should be credited for the work, or the architect for the architecture categories. And then it has your contact information. And realistically, what that's for is if I have a question or a problem at the entry, I know who to call, who to come back to. Okay, who am I contacting to say I'm missing something, or I need to tell you you finaled or you won. The second page is the page that relates to the judges. And realistically, I'll blow this up a little bit. This is where you're going to fill out that information on the location, the primary target market, okay, the sales price of the plan, the square footage, and the website. Now, Shane kind of mentioned, the reason the website for the community is on there is in case for some reason I need to go find something about that project. I need to know the location, I need to know, double check the pricing. There's some reason that the square footage isn't jiving with the floor plan, so I can go double check it. It's realistically, so it's a reference point for us, okay? The judges aren't going there unless it's the website category. Now, in that narrative, as you can see that box of 200 words, again, it's an open box, it's a Word doc. You can format it however you'd like, okay? And fill that out with, like you said, however you bullet points, slide 1, slide 2, whatever it is. I would say this, though. Long, wordy statements, for some reason, they just tend to fall really flat at this point. They need to stand out.
Where do we get that form?
That form is downloadable from the website, and so you can download all the forms. As a matter of fact, I'll show you that. We have on the website, in the Dropbox, I think that's what Misty has linked on the website, is all these forms. Let me do this a little larger for you. The idea of this is that you can find all this information there. So you can see you can get the sales awards form categories 1 through 8, the builder's choice forms, and so forth. So they're all numbered there, so you can find them and make sure the team project form used for categories 14 through 56, 59 through 62, so you can find those. Okay?
But also, after they submit their entry, doesn't it give an email to them as well?
In the confirmation email, there is a link that literally says on that confirmation email, let me go back in here, it says required forms. Don't forget required forms, if there's a link, you can link on that, and it should download this entire Dropbox folder for you. So you automatically get it right away. First thing you get. And like I said, the reason we do them in Word is just so that you can have them, you don't have to mess around with PDFs or anything else like that. Everybody can use them and adjust them. Shane did make a really good point about the salesperson or the professional achievement. Here's the other thing. Not only, like I said earlier, interview them, talk to them, let them know you're submitting them. I know some people are like, well, I want to make it a surprise. Don't make it a surprise. They'll plan their vacation for the day we're going to have interviews, and I'll be calling some boat in the Caribbean somewhere to do an interview, and it's like, you can do that. But it just adds that level of frustration for them as well, because they're on vacation. They don't want to be doing this at that point. So
The date's on the website right now, what the interview date is.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so March 1st, matter of fact, that's what I would sit down. I would say, hey, listen, I'm going to submit Susie, Bobby, and Jenny. Susie, Bobby, and Jenny, where are you March 1st? Are you planning to be gone? And if they're planning to be gone, that's okay. Here's a suggestion or a solution to that. We actually had folks, we'll tell you exactly what the 3 questions are that the judges asked. The judges will ask every single entrant the same 3 questions, so it's an even level playing field. What was your biggest success? What was your biggest obstacle? And what are you most proud of? What's your biggest success? What's your biggest obstacle? And what are you most proud of? And they have 10 minutes, okay, with each judge. So if you want to do a mock interview with them and record it on your iPhone, thank you, Apple, because now we can record anything everywhere. You can literally ask them those questions. I've had folks who've literally turned it in as a video, and we've played it for them, and they've won. They won at nationals. I mean, it can be done. Now, will I tell you that's the best way of doing it? It's
Probably not the best, because the best way is really sitting across from somebody to read body language and have that conversation and get to know them. Because realistically, that's kind of how, it's a dynamic, a personal dynamic. But it does at least allow them to have that sense. Sometimes the video does better than the phone interview. We've done a lot of phone interviews lately because folks are so busy, they have they have appointments, or we have geographic diversity where it takes too long to drive in, which it's completely fine. But even with that, I'd rather do a FaceTime interview rather than a phone interview. For some reason, having that face-to-face, the facial expressions really helps. But again, sit down and have that conversation. Where are you on March 1st? Are you available? Are you into this? We've even had folks who didn't know they were being nominated. They walk in the door, they feel like they're coming in for a job interview, and they just don't have the right mindset or attitude. And they come in and they're like really great people, but they're not there. So, there's something to be said of having that conversation with folks.
One also thing about sales teams is that, so let's say it's a team of 3.
Come in the camera.
And two of the people can be here, one can't. That's great. Somebody can call in, have the phone there with them. But we have had the instance where the whole team can't be there, and now they've moved on, and 2 people are on a different site, and person 3 is over here, whatever it is. If that's going to be the case, try to figure that out prior, because it's not incumbent upon us to figure out conference calling and all that kind of stuff. So if you're going to have a situation where a team is kind of spread apart, figure out how to get everybody on the same phone so that if they're going to do a call-in interview, it's worked out, rather than one person shows up and say 2 are away. I don't know how everybody's going to call in, so that would be the only thing I'd suggest.
But I don't know if it plays in this group as much.
Yeah, but if they can be here in person, that's definitely the easiest. It's short, they'll give them an exact time to be here. It's short, it's really quick, but it's kind of easier all around to get your best foot forward with that.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing that I would say this. I say this. It's actually in the best interest of the entrant. Is we'll send out, hi, you've been nominated. Congratulations. You've been scheduled for an interview for Best Online Sales Counselor at 10:15 on March 1st. Inevitably, I'll get an email back. I can't be there at 10:15. Can I reschedule? And here's the reason we can't. And so the reason I'm giving this to you so that you can kind of parlay or send this message out is we judge in sequential order. And so all the online salespeople come in a group, okay? And as soon as they're done, then they make a choice, and we move on to the next category. So that they're not bebopping around and they're talking to a sales manager, an online salesperson, and then a project manager. You can imagine, as a judge, your brain would be scrambled. So this way, it keeps everybody in a group, and at the end of that group, they can make a decision. So that's the reason why we can't, or we don't want to make those adjustments. Now, for instance, we've had folks who are like, hey, listen, dropping my kid off, I can't call you at 10:15, I have to call you at 10:20. Is that going to be okay? We will do our very best to accomplish that for anybody if there's something like that. Or I have a sale, I'm writing a contract at that time, can you switch me with someone else? We will do our very best to do those things. But I always like to tell people that because they feel like we're inflexible. It's not inflexible. It's realistically trying to make it as structured for that judge to make the most valuable decisions.
And also this year, for the first time, we'll have someone from the builders and developers entering for Builder of the Year and Developer of the Year, speaking with the judges, just to keep that in mind.
Yeah, so if you're going, yeah, exactly. So if you're going,
you want, whoever you want, your division president, or, whoever can and is willing and is able to speak to them that day, I think that'll be I'm excited about that. I think that'll be, really be a benefit to the category, but that's new, so if you've entered builder or developer in the past, just FYI.
you may want to talk to somebody earlier than later to get on their schedule.
Right.
Exactly. So this is the McSAM portal as it currently stands on the website right now, the DBA website. As you can see, you can get into the information and requirements. You can get into the entry portal, which is that entry form that I showed you online, and then you can download the forms. So they're all available right now. So realistically, you could go back and get started today. So, and again, if I was going to go back, the way I would approach it, I would literally sit down and try to figure out what were the categories, and then I'd send an email and say, send me samples. Because after you get those samples written, it will really launch you into the right mindset. And then attack it early. Because here's what happens is you can get them all done, and you can let them sit for a couple days, and then you can go back to them and refine them. Refine and retuning is so much better than trying to do it at the very last second, turning your homework in late. It never works out well. I had an entrant who would always do the best thing. She got behind and she didn't submit everything until the end, and it showed. It was actually slightly embarrassing. It was kind of rough. So again, don't wait till the last minute. It just, for some reason, doesn't work.
And one of them too, you can't submit the exact same thing for the exact same award if it won the previous year. So
Great
if you
point.
won for a brochure, for your brand new brochure last year, it can't win, that same brochure can't win in the brochure category
Correct.
this year type.
However, if you were in a category last year and you submitted and you were a finalist but did not win, and that project or that entry is still eligible, you can then pick that entry up. I wouldn't say submit the exact same entry. I would probably pick it up. I would relook at it. I'd probably shine up that marketing statement, get in some fresh information about it, and then you can resubmit that. Because here's the beauty of it. The judges are new every single year. So it's not like, oh, I saw this last year. They were not here last year. So you got a fresh set of eyes and a fresh team. So it's basically like getting a do-over. So go for it. Yeah, especially people. Yeah, I would definitely. People are of the year. So we've always had that question. But that person, is it the rule you can't win it 2 years in a row?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, the people can't, but finalists can.
Yeah,
That's correct.
yeah, you can resubmit,
Right.
it's just the winners.
Several questions on you, so at what point do you submit? Does it have to be completed project or current project or past project or? what is
Sure.
the-
So if it's open for sale during the time period of January 1st of 2018 to December 31st of 2018, it has to be open for sale. So, but if it's a home and it should be built and should be able to be photographed. So if you have a brochure, like if you're not open for sale, if you don't have actual product but you have a website and you are open and you're selling, you can submit a website, a brochure, a salesperson, anything like that. But product needs to be standing. Does that make sense?
Or even for design category or?
Yeah, design categories, it should be built.
To be actual product.
Yes. Yeah. And if it's not quite yet, I mean, then realistically, you're kind of getting ready for when it is actually built. Yeah. Yeah, in this market, we don't have an on the boards category. But those are.
I don't think this market we have this issue, but it is something that we've started to see nationally, that if there is going to be a community that's going to come online that you're not going to build a model for, and everything's going to be virtual,
Oh, yes.
then you could enter the virtual part of it. But you wouldn't enter it if there's going to be models somewhere down the road. That's not the intention. We've had some stuff in Northern California, some stuff in Denver, where they didn't do a model, and they did it all virtual, and it did well.
But you need to explain that that is how you're going to be selling, how you're doing it, how you're achieving it, how the buyer is receiving that virtual information, and how well it's being received.
It's something that interior designers are afraid of, and a little worried for the future. But although as we've told them, and we've heard from builders, a guy that's designing the virtual cannot design the interiors like an interior designer can. So
Sure.
there's still all that opportunity.
There's a
there,
collaboration.
but it's
Bless
something-
you.
Was there any changes other than having someone speak for the Build of the Year? I know we were having that discussion when we had our first meeting. Were there any changes that were made as far as
Yeah.
how many entries you have to make, or?
Not in terms of how many entries. The way, this is something that has been confusing, I think, in the past. So the way that Developer of the Year and Builder of the Year are judged this year, we did change that a little bit. It's not listed out in here exactly, is it?
It is, it's on the second last page, Builder, missing Builder, Developer.
So the judges score is going to be based on the interview plus the 5 questions on the form that have cumulative points, okay? So on that Builder of the Year entry form, it asks you to talk about different elements, and there's cumulative points. And then there's also going to be a point performance based on the entry submittals within the qualifying categories. For instance, for Builder of the Year, they're asking for entries in individual achievement. So your sales professional, it could be your sales professionals, it could be your online sales counselor, it could be your project managers, it could be your sales manager, marketing director, and so forth, but it needs to be a person, okay? you have to have some sort of entry in marketing, whether it be your website, your brochure, your social media campaign, whatever it is. And then you do need to be submitted within the design categories in order for us to see the product that you build as a builder. Okay? It's basically to show, hey, listen, these are our people, this is how we market ourselves, and this is our product. And so those cumulative points, all of those elements, the cumulative points of the qualifiers, the cumulative points of those questions, and then that interview are all the basis for the builder. That was the intention.
But you don't have to actually win.
You don't have to actually win those things. All you have to do is, basically, it goes back to what I was saying about making the case. What you're doing is you're realistically showing yourself off to that judge, because that judge isn't familiar, is outside of the market. You're basically introducing yourself to them. So for developer, it's the same sort of thing. If you're going for developer of the year, same type of submittal. And then for community of the year, it's the same element. Basically, you have the qualifying categories, and then we do a personal tour of the communities. The judges go out in the van, we go visit, and I let everyone know, hey, we're going to be visiting you on the 28th of February. We're going to be there at 1 o'clock, and we'd love for you to give us a market overview and a little talk. And what will happen is we'll get there, and it can be whoever you want to be. Whether it's your lifestyle director, your VP of sales and marketing. Sometimes we've had the head of the building company, sort of the head of the developer, and they have a chance to stand there and give, this is why this is the next great place. And again, we are there to see it in person, to see if everything we saw on screen delivers in person. So yes, Sherry, that's exactly right. Those are the biggest challenges, was to add that little bit more depth and round out those categories, so that when the Builder of the Year wins or finals, they know they had the chance to speak on their own behalf. So that's those are, and again, going back to the People's Choice, make sure if you're going to go for People's Choice this year, submit those early, because again, there's a little bit of homework that goes into that. Matter of fact, I'll go over that really quickly. We do this as a survey out to the buyers. Okay, the buyers actually fill out a survey based on 6 questions. And so in order for us to survey your buyers, we need you to submit those lists to us. It's handled by Team PMP as a third party. We're completely unassociated to any entry, and we do it on behalf of the DBA. Every single one of the entries is kept in its own group. So we will send out the questions and surveys to your buyer profile only. They'll be asked to answer the questions based on you, and they're not going to be like, they don't ask you to judge you based on another builder or another community. They're specifically answering questions based on you. Those entries and those materials are sent back to us, and then following the actual awards program, if you'd like to get the survey results, which is actually pretty interesting because you get all the responses, that's actually available to you, so you can see who said what they said and how they said what they said about you. So it's pretty valuable. So there's something to be said to that. But that does run between a specific time period. So in order for us to do this, we need to have that contact list by February 1st. The survey will deploy out to your buyers by February 25th. Before that, you're able to send out to that same list, hi, it's ABC Builders. We're really excited. We're going for People's Choice Builder of the Year or Community of the Year. You're going to be receiving a survey coming up in the next week or so. We want you to vote for us and give responses, so we hope you'll do so. And so if you have any questions, let us know. So it's almost like a pre-notification that this is going to be coming, so it's not out of the blue. Usually it works the best in order for us to get response rate. And it runs for 2 weeks. The survey runs for 2 weeks, and then we close it down and we go with those responses. Any other questions? And again, going back to the entry requirements, in every single one of these requirements, it gives you suggested shots for those categories. So it'll say suggested for architectural, front exterior, living room, dining room, master, kitchen, family room, and any other unique spaces. Those are suggested, not rules. Okay? So if you don't want to show that master bedroom for some reason, you'd rather show the wine room, yes, show the wine room. If that's more compelling, if that's more exciting, do so. Those are only suggested. Sorry?
Except for front exterior.
Except for front exterior. Yeah, for some reason, they really, really want to see the front exterior of the house. Yeah, in architecture.
Doesn't have to be for interior design, but architecture, please.
Well, I hope that this helped you all. And again, if you have any questions or need any help at any time, please feel free to contact us. We're here to help you. We want to make you shine. We want to see you on that stage picking up that McSAM award on April the 13th. And everybody enjoy your day. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.